Today we're going to take a look at how to pack a real human skull. JonsBones. So why are we even having this conversation? Here at JonsBones, we work with retired medical bones, and it's our goal to preserve these pieces to the best of our ability. So let me tell you a quick story. Until the 1980s, it was extremely common for medical students to purchase real human bones for studying during their time in med school. So, Jimmy is a 20-year-old med student during 1950, and he recently just purchased a human skull to use during his time in medical school. Now, fast forward to 2022, Jimmy's dead. So we're all familiar with the concept of inheritance. Now that Jimmy has freshly passed away, his son doesn't know what to do with his father's possession. Unfortunately enough for him, he finds a human skull in his father's closet. Not knowing what to do with it, here's where we come in. So here at JonsBones, this is where all of our skulls come from. They're majority inherited from individuals who had relatives in the medical field. So here at JonsBones, we work with the general public. In order to get these pieces back from the open market, we photograph them and work closely with working professionals to try to get these pieces back into the educational field. Since this was the original intention for these skulls, we want to make sure we honor that by doing so. So by closely working with the general public, as well as universities and working professionals, we can hopefully do right by these pieces. So this is where you come in. I wanted to make this video to better help you guys understand how to safely pack a skull in order to deliver it to us here at JonsBones. It's extremely important that we take care when handling these pieces because we want to ensure their preservation to the best of our ability. So as a response, we want to make sure that it's packed as safely as possible. So the most common damage we see when handling and interacting with skulls is actually shattering of the two front teeth. Oftentimes with medical skulls, the teeth are extremely brittle and quick impact and shock can actually shatter and break the teeth easily. Oftentimes, if you look at the profile of the skull, the two front teeth protrude out the most. So if there's impact, it's always the first to break. Even before this piece entered into the JonsBones showroom, we can already see evidence of this happening right here. This can be an example of what happened if skulls are not handled properly, and this is just such a disservice to this original piece. So this is the skull that we're going to pack in today's video. So let's go over the materials you'll need to pack this skull. You're going to need a myriad of bubble wrap, tape, and then saran wrap. And most importantly, an assistant. These are the only things you need in order to properly pack a human skull. Step 1. Cut a rectangle shaped piece of bubble wrap that will be placed in between the skull in order to protect the teeth during transit. Step 2 is to open up the mouth and carefully place the bubble wrap inside the mouth. The next step is to thoroughly wrap the skull with saran wrap. You want to continuously go around the skull until only a faint outline is left. This is one of the most important steps because in the rare instance that the skull is damaged, everything is contained securely in the saran wrap and can be safely restored once the piece arrives to the showroom. When you're wrapping the skull, the first wrap should fold the bubble wrap upright in order for it to protect the front teeth. This is a crucial step. You want to wrap it until there's only a faint outline of the skull left. This gives it its first layer of protection and padding. The next step is to wrap the skull with 2 to 3 layers of bubble wrap. Once you begin to wrap, you want to start by folding both sides over the top of the skull. Now this part is also important. Once both layers are over, you want to fold your hand down and then bring this layer up in order to pad around the skull, and you want to do this on both sides. Folding the bubble wrap over ensures that both of the sides are padded. For the human skull, this is actually the most fragile part, so we want to make sure it has as much padding and protection as possible. Now that the skull has been properly padded, we want to make sure that we can begin to line the box with bubble wrap. Depending if you're using packing peanuts or bubble wrap, it doesn't necessarily matter, whichever you guys feel most comfortable with. As long as the skull is secured within the middle of the box, it should be completely fine. This is how I like to do it. Start by putting one big sheet of bubble wrap in. Take the skull in. Make sure not to put in the skull parallel to the box because that could increase chances of the teeth shattering. You always want to put the skull in as a diagonal. Now that the box has been fully secured, you want to make sure that you hit the pain points. So all 4 corners have to be safely secured and packed. It's really a Goldilocks situation. If you overpack the skull, it could become cramped and could actually damage the skull. And if you underpack the skull, it ends up rattling around in the box, which could also damage the skull. So you want to make sure that it's firm and doesn't move around, while also making sure that it's not overpacked. We are now going to fill the rest of the box with packing peanuts. If you're using packing peanuts, make sure you get them into each of the corners. Oftentimes it's harder for them to slip in, so make sure you're really pushing them in. If you're using bubble wrap, make sure that you're stuffing the bubble wrap down into the corners to make sure the skull is fully secured. You should feel a little bit of pressure when pushing down, but it shouldn't be too much. Now that the box has been secured, you want to make sure that you tape all of the linings of the box so that way it makes it a little bit more waterproof. In the event that it rains, we want to make sure that it's as secure as possible. Now that you've finished packing the skull, it's time for my favorite part, the Jon Jon Shake Test. We want to make sure that this piece does not rattle or move at all in the box to make sure it's securely packed. So oftentimes, every time I'm finished packing a skull, I always do this test. And that is how you pack a real human skull. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. We'll be making a future video on how to pack a real human skeleton, so stay tuned to that. And if you guys enjoyed the video today, be sure to subscribe and like the video.